aware of. No.
Broadcasting live from Youngville, North Carolina and Ontario, Canada, this is Got Mead Live, a weekly show where Vicky Rowe and AJ Airments bring you the mead news, meadery info, and mead making discussions from all over, talking with mead makers, mead owners, industry mavens, and influencers. This is Got Mead Live, a weekly podcast about mead and the people who love it and where the mead world is going. And now here are your hosts, Got Mead owner Vicky Rowe and mead and wine maker AJ Airments.
Live from the den of the puppies of the apocalypse and the bunny pen in Ottawa, Canada, and Melbourne, down under, it's Got Mead Live. Welcome to the show. We have been gone for a little while because I ran away to Australia to go hang out with Hamish and friends. Left, yeah. Hang on, I gotta turn you guys on. Left AJ all alone. But we're back now for a little while until I run away to Disney in October. I just wanted to say thanks for all the people who signed up to become patrons and who renewed their memberships over the last month. Thank you so much. That really helps. It costs a lot of money to run Got Mead at Al and all of the various things. So that really helps that I don't have to dip into my savings to do it. And I do appreciate it. Of course, we do all this on our own time on the show, because we're mead lovers. So we love doing it. But software, hardware, storage, all that stuff costs like over $200 a month. So if you like the show, if you like Got Mead, consider giving $30 a year. That's it. To help us maintain the site, upgrade the show, and basically expand Got Mead to be even more and better than it has been. So, and again, much appreciated. But just go to gotmead.com and click forum, and you'll see a become a patron there, and that just really helps. Thanks so very much. Um, our guest tonight is Susan Ruud, who is the owner of Prairie Rose Meadery in North Dakota. She's in Fargo, and if you've seen the movie, yes, they do talk like that, some of them. But she makes really awesome mead, and she gave a talk at the AHA conference this year on oak. So we're bringing her in to talk about oak. She's been on the show before, but I think she's going to have a lot to offer. Her meads are amazing, so I think she probably knows what she's talking about. So we're going to do that. So if you want to find us, you can listen to us, of course, on gotmead.com. Just click Got Mead Live Radio Show. There's a player right there. If you prefer to listen to us later, you can check us out on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Spreaker, which is where we broadcast from. Just search Got Mead Live. Replays are available back to the beginning of the show on all those places, including the website. So if you need to catch up, that's where you can do it. If you want to find us online, where we hang out and chat, we're on Facebook at facebook.com/gotmead, and the group is facebook.com/groups/gotmead. And of course, on Twitter, we are at gotmeadnow. And if you want to send us an email telling us somebody you want to see on the show, or if you've got questions about somebody who's coming up, or that you just like to ask in general, you can just go to gotmead.com, put your mouse over Got Mead Live Radio Show. There'll be a drop down where you can go and fill out a form to send us a question or suggestion. And if Skype is working, which it really hasn't been doing very well with the whole phone-in thing, it's 803-443-MEAD. That's 803-443-6323. And for those of you that are wondering why we still use Skype, it's because the software that we use only uses Skype. Trying to find a solution. Anybody got any ideas? Feel free to let me know. I'm all ears. So, that's a good thing. We do have a little bit of a plug for Susan, but let's talk about first what we're drinking. What you got, AJ? Why are you guys not? Hang on. I don't think you talk for me. I don't think you guys are going out for some reason. Ah, no, you're not. Damn it, Janet. Ah, oh my God, this is crazy. And I think it's actually Skype this time, not surprisingly. Yeah, no. Ah,
Technical service. How may I be helping you?
now you guys are going out, but I can't hear you.
Oh,
We
that's
got-
Oh,
great.
you can. Oh, all right.
Apparently you get one or the other, huh? And as usual, we are fraught with
All right,
technical
working
difficulties.
on it, guys. Anybody who's listening out there, we apologize. I don't know what the hell's going on here.
Well, if they can hear me, I was having a latte right now, and then I'm going to be finishing off the dregs of a bottle of date night that barely made it around the country in tiny little sips for practically
nice.
everybody around the country. So that's what I'll be having shortly. And if I get
A date
through
that really
there's
got
another
around?
bottle of- That really did get around, I'll give you that. If we get through that, I'll be finishing off an open bottle of chili mead from Thistle. AJ, would you like to go over your Chateau Chevette once more?
Right, yes. I am drinking straight from the bottle as the gods intended, as much as Hamish may insist that it should be from a skin, and I can't reach my drinking horn from here. I got my traditional mead that I brought out to the Mazer Cup. It was started in 2015 and bottled 2018. And it's goldenrod and buckwheat honey, and it's been, well, it's like a quarter of a bottle, and it's been sitting there for a couple of months. So it's a little oxidized, but it's still pretty darn good for all of that.
Cool. So Vicky's still working on technical issues, I believe. And while she's doing that...
Yeah, I got it fixed. You guys can be heard.
Oh, very good.
I think I can be heard. That's what it looks like. And for whatever reason, it doesn't want to. Your input doesn't want to go through my headset. I don't know what's going on. I'm working on that. But yes, I'm here. There we go. Ha
All right.
Jesus.
So I believe we have Susan Ruud on the show today, Vicky.
Yes, we do. Susan has been making mead for a very long time, and of course she runs a very successful meadery up in North Dakota. And she gave a talk on oak that was extremely well received at the AHA conference. I wish I could have gone. But so we're basically going to pull that out of her here. So maybe those who didn't go to the AHA conference can get some of what she was teaching there. So this should be pretty good. And I'm drinking a cinnamon spice sizer that I have no idea of the origin because it's in a flip top bottle that I poured it into. It's good. It's semi-sweet. Lots of spice notes on it, and the honey's gone kind of to the back, so this has been around a while, but like it.
Very good.
Yeah. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, North Dakota's only meadery is producing traditionals, melomels, acerglins, and methaglins. It's available through Vino Shipper in 35 states. PrairieRoseMeadery.com. Go check them out. That's Susan's place. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get her added.
And I'm going to drink more.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I'm still jet lagged from the trip. I'm just having these like random nap attacks. It's weird.
Didn't you get back a week ago?
And I got back last Wednesday night.
Right, because there was adventures.
Yeah, there was a hold up. So, Susan, did you make it?
I'm here.
Here you is. All right, cool. Welcome to Got Mead Live again.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, how's it? Please tell me the weather in North Dakota isn't like stupidly hot like it is here.
Oh, no, it's about 70 degrees. Cooler at night, 50s, up to about, at the most, 80 during the day.
Oh, God. I want to get out of North Carolina.
This is a great time of year. calm, no rain usually, just nice, pleasant fall. Leaves are turning.
Good mead making weather.
It is. Although when you make it inside with chillers, doesn't matter. It's mead making weather all the time.
Here it doesn't matter because your air conditioner cannot keep up with what's going on outside. So,
Well, I suppose.
yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. So, yeah, I was when we put out a call to all the members of the groups and asked them who they wanted to talk to, and your name came up, and you gave an oak talk at the AHA conference this year.
Last year.
Last year.
This is from Minneapolis. This year was Oakland. I was on a mead in Oakland.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I went looking for it, and either I missed it or it's not up there yet. They've got some of the ones from 17 up there, but I don't know. Anyway, kind of wanted to not have you do the whole talk, mind you, but bring the wisdom of your oaking knowledge to the people like me who couldn't go to the AHA conference, and and let's dig into this subject. It's a huge subject out there. Everybody seems to be talking about oak.
Yeah, no, I think oaking can do so many things for mead. Just even I did my talk. I did 3 days, 2 weeks, and 2 months on leaving it just a traditional mead sitting on an oak. And even at 3 days, I was amazed at how it softened it, how it just, you really couldn't taste the oak, but it just made the traditional mead taste just that much more complex and smooth. So that was pretty cool.
What did what did you learn as you were doing this? I mean, what did you start out with when you started playing with oaking your meads, way back whenever you started doing that?
That was a couple of years ago. I guess I was just surprised at how quick you could actually change your mead with oak, 3 days. I was very surprised at that. I was also thinking, wow, you can really overdo this, easy then if you can change it so much in 3 days. But even at 60 days, I thought it made a very nice mead. It was a totally different mead. So it's really what you want. And I would suggest for everybody to just go out and play with it a little bit because, at 3 days, you're not going to get a lot of the oak flavors or anything. It's just going to make it kind of give it a little more body, less sweet, sweeter than, less sweet, I guess, than just as it comes off fermentation. But it's not going to get a lot of the vanilla or the caramel or the brown sugars or woody flavors or smoky flavors that you'll get as you leave it on oak longer periods of time. And what I used was just a medium French oak. So I kind of went right in the middle of what you can do with oak. Some of the American oaks are going to be in your face. French oak is a lot softer. But you have a light French oak, you have a medium, you have a heavily, what do you call it?
Toasted.
Heavy French oak. It's kind of, scorched or whatever. No, that's not the right word either.
Toasted.
Toasted.
Hamish said toasted.
Toasted, yes. So it depends on how much toasting. Every one of these are going to give it a little bit different character. But I kind of first did a French oak. I did like 10 different little samples of French, Hungarian, and American oak, low, medium, and high toast, and settled on the medium French is what my preference was. So then after that, I just kind of started playing with that. And I used those little Stavin oak cubes. Easy, you can do it in a very small volume, 3 or 4 cubes in just even a liter is going to give you quite, you're going to be able to get a nice comparison. So you don't have to waste a lot of meat. You have to do this in a 5-gallon batch. You can test where you like it easily in smaller volumes.
Okay. So why cubes as opposed to chips or spirals or staves? I mean, did you play with all of them,
Well,
or what's your
just
thoughts on that?
because the cubes, the cubes will fit nicely in a bottle of mead, so I could use one bottle, and not have to, I didn't want to do a whole gallon of it or a whole, I just wanted to try it out, see how it tasted. That was my initial. After that, then I did, with the medium French oak, I did 5 gallons for the talk at Minneapolis. So a little longer, but it did seem to work up pretty much percentage-wise. 3 days, the same flavors I got. So I thought that was good to find out too. So like, how much more do you have to put in or less do you have to put in at larger volumes to get the same?
So
That was fun.
You're experimenting by taking a finished mead and oaking it in the bottle?
Yeah. Well,
Cool.
and most people are going to, a lot of people will oak, they finish their mead first and then they put it on oak.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really no difference then. Occasionally people will just let the whole thing ferment in an oak barrel. You're going to get a whole different complexity out of that. But I just find that a little harder to work with just because you've got the blow off in the barrel and yeah. So I just used my pretty much basically finished meat and did that.
Is that how you determined how much oak you wanted to use, though? You knew that it was like 1 cube for 2 days and 750 milliliters, and then did the math, or?
Yep. It was actually, I think, 3 or 4 cubes. 4 cubes I used, and in each little one, and yep, just went up from there.
Is the math on that linear when you go up from like, a regular
Pretty
home batch to a commercial?
Yeah, it was pretty linear. It was amazing how it stayed very close. I was surprised, actually. I was expecting it to take less oak as it got bigger and more space for it, but no, that was pretty good.
Interesting. What sort of, people, I've seen people talking about oaking, well, pretty much everything at one point or another. What are your thoughts on where oak is best applied in styles and things like that?
Well, I've only worked with it a lot with the traditional meads, just because they're, traditional mead is, other than the honey complexity out of the mead, it's just kind of one-dimensional. So that's where I started playing with it to see what I could do. I did find at 3 days, just as a nice traditional mead where you're not really going to taste a lot of the oaking, I really liked it. I thought it added just a little bit more body. It added a little, cut the sweetness just a little bit. And yeah, just it smoothed the whole thing out. And that was at 3 days. And then at 2 weeks, and this is taking a semi-sweet mead, traditional clover. You still had like your clover varietals at 2 weeks kind of dropped a little bit. You didn't get quite as much of the spicy clover varietal out of it. But you got a lot more like maple brown sugar from the wood. You got a little more complexity. Again, just some slightly smoky notes from the wood, and woody and smoky notes. A little bit of the vanilla, and that type of thing. And then letting it go for 60 days, you really lost a lot of the varietal character, but you got some really nice cinnamon, allspicy, and vanilla notes, some caramel, some really heavy brown sugar, some woodiness, some smokiness. It really was more complex. Actually, the body at this point seemed to drop back a little more than it did at 2 weeks. The first couple of ones seemed like it rounder, smoother, gave it a little bit fuller body. And then by 60 days, that started to drop off a little. And then actually I had a couple of bottles that I did that I happened to sit around for quite a while. And after about 3 months, with that same amount of oak, about 4 months, I guess, it really almost started, and this was just the 750 bottles, not the larger batches, seemed to get almost like they tasted like they were in a bourbon barrel, never having been in a bourbon barrel. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
So, are you suggesting that when you say the varietals drop off, that you might, if you're going to want to oak a mead, that the varietal you use is not so important, and you might not want to use a big expensive say metafoam or something like that?
Well, depends on the length of time you're going to leave it in there, and depends on what you're trying to get. Because it's going to, that varietal is going to be in the background still. So, and I can't say. Mine was clover. I love my traditional clover just as it is. It's got this nice light peppery, spicy cinnamon floral notes that are beautiful. And at 3 days, that was all still there, yet the whole thing was a lot smoother. But at 2 months, you definitely lost the varietal character quite a bit, because the wood character, the vanilla, the caramel, all that came up and pretty much overpowered the varietal at that point. Some of the more stronger varietals might hold up more. You might want somewhere in between all those to balance the wood with that marshmallow that might, when you're talking meadowfoam, might actually give you something. The smokiness might give you you might want that if you're trying to do something like a s'mores mead. It really depends on what you're trying to make.
All right. Did you ever manage to get anything akin to what AJ's always called her chateau plywood?
What?
She calls it
completely
chateau plywood.
Yeah, I was using oak chips from a wine kit for a 5-gallon batch, except I'd only diluted it out to 3 gallons and forgot to adjust the the oak chips to accommodate for that, and I made chateau plywood.
Ooh.
It was extremely woody for a very long time, but it actually aged out really, really nicely.
Oh, well, that's good.
It took a while.
Ask Vicky, I gave her some.
Yeah, it actually was. I had a bottle of it, and it was good. The oak was where it needed to be. It wasn't over. It wasn't too much over. Maybe a tad, but I mean, I thought that it did really well. But how long did that take, AJ?
It took about a year to age out to drinkable, and a little longer to be pleasant.
Okay. Yeah, so it wasn't, it was not chateau plywood anymore.
No, I mean, and it is proof that, it does age out, but when it first happened, I was like, oh no.
Yeah. Well, I have mead still to this day that it was a cherry mead kit that I bought, or I think I won it somewhere or something. And I tried making it, and I think the cherry had already been pre-oaked somehow. And oh my God, it really, I guess I haven't tasted it in about 3 years, but after 15, all you could still taste was oak. So I hesitated to use any oak, but I thought, well, I'll try it just in small amounts and see how it goes. And yeah, now I'm actually very happy with what I've gotten out of it.
Well, based on that then, with your oaking trials, have you Have you done any aging trials on top of that oak, and how does it stand up, if you have?
Well, I haven't aged much of it. I said the 60 days is about the most. And I take that back. I did a acid one in with oak for about 6 months, and that's held up. It balances well, but it's actually just getting better and better. That's probably getting on almost 2 years now.
Okay. Do you mean it's still on the oak 2 years later, or?
No. It was on the oak for 6 months. The whole thing at time I bottled it was a year and a quarter, and it's probably a little over 2 years now. And it's just getting, it started out really good at bottling, and now it's really good.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see what that does to the life of the mead. As to when it peaks and all of that, because that's one of the areas that we don't really have a lot of info on. Is how a mead ages.
Yeah, that's where I was heading.
Yeah.
To me, I think the oaking actually should help any mead age longer. Just you think about how wines age that have been oaked. I think you're going to get the same effect with mead, although you may not need as much. You definitely don't necessarily need as long on oak with at least a traditional mead as you would a wine.
You found much difference between the time it takes to get the same results with a smaller batch versus a larger batch?
Nope, they were very close.
Okay.
At least I'll say, for the 3 day, it's very close. I haven't done like 130 gallon batch longer yet, but I've done like the 750 ml bottle and a 5 gallon batch. Those were very close. And for most homebrewers, that's where their size they're going to put it at the most, I'm guessing.
So you're looking at what, 4 cubes? What are those? Half-inch, quarter-inch cubes?
Yep. Yeah, they're little tiny.
The little guys.
Half-inch.
Okay. So 4 half-inch cubes, 5 probably per liter. Is this 4 in a bottle? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So, guys, and she said the math was linear, so you can just do the math to take that up to 4 gallons or 5 gallons or whatever to test that. But 6 months, that's interesting, and it just came up nicely. It didn't go hog wild or anything.
No. Actually, all of them were still quite drinkable. Nothing was over the top. Although the wood and smoky notes were getting definitely more in your face at 60 days.
Okay. I think the longest I've ever had the nerve to leave things on oak was like 3 weeks. And then it was like, no, I gotta get it out of there.
Now, I've got some commercial ones, but they're sitting in bourbon barrels at the moment. Ooh. They've been there now for 2 months. But I kind of like them more intense there with that.
Yeah, I like the bourbon. I like the character of bourbon barrel ads. I've had several bourbon barrel meads, and I've liked they're all different, but I liked all of them. It was just a very interesting flavor profile to add to it.
Yeah, that was kind of fun.
Yeah, it really is. So there's like a gazillion questions about oak, and I'm trying to, get all of them out there. You did a series of trials, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about
I did. I started out with all of the different oaks. Well, I like to say all of the oaks, but I used a French oak, American oak, and a Hungarian oak chips. The little cubes you can get from Staven, and I think I did 9 or 10 of those. And I think there's also some with, which I did also, you can get little samples that had the barrel end also in it. But I think I messed a couple of those up, so they don't count. But yeah, so I just went and played with each of those and then did a taste off, which I had my local homebrew club help me out with.
Mhm.
And we just tasted it and it's like which one's best and kind of picked a few, and then I just kind of, okay, I'm going to use, I really like the character, the medium French oak. So that's what I ended up using on the bigger, I just did, 4 or 5 gallon batches of medium French oak for time trials. The first ones, I think I only did less than a week on the lower ones. Like, okay. I mean, I tasted them after a few days, and then I think it was a week at the time, the homebrew club. And at that point, okay, this is what I like best. And it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that definitely is. Now I'm gonna have to get crazy with oak this winter when the weather lets up enough that I can actually make mead. It's not 100 degrees outside.
I mean, with those little, you could even do it, if you don't want to use a whole 750 ml bottle, a 12-ounce bottle, just do a beer bottle and put 1 or 2 in and see how you like it over time. It doesn't have to be a huge volume. And see, just try the different flavors and do side-by-side comparisons and because everybody's personally going to like something a little bit different. And how it works with your honey might be a little different than how it works with mine. It's not going to be cut and dry. I would just suggest, and it was fun. It was fun seeing all the differences. So.
Yeah.
So essentially,
I
you're
remember
suggesting
when I
to try it all, right?
Yeah, I would say try as many as you can, and and just a traditional mead, and then you have a whole bunch of different traditional meads. That's kind of fun.
It's kind of a behaviour. You said try it all. It's kind of a behaviour that we all started with mead. I remember trying oak myself when I started and doing all sorts of things. Then we get a bit scared and insular, and we back down into what we know, and we get that right. Like I remember, I think it was Pete saying, the first thing you should do is get a traditional and be able to make a good traditional, and that's all well and good, but we then get a bit scared of going back to these things like oak that we tried so long ago and made the plywood that AJ tried, and a lot of people will have tipped it down the drain at that point and not kept it for the 2 years needed to make it drinkable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what I was going to say there, but I'm kind of looking forward to maybe trying some oak myself soon. I haven't tried it possibly for 7 or 8 years, and some of those odd bottles are actually quite good. So yeah, it might be an idea to get onto that.
Well, and with these little Staven oak cubes, you can do such a small amount and see where you like it. You could even, if you got a 5-gallon batch and you want to oak the whole thing, pull, a half a liter out and put it in and taste, and then figure out how many days do I want to have this in there. And the other thing is you can keep tasting it every few days. Taste it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, does it taste pretty good? Pull it out where you like it. Because it does stay pretty similar, I think.
So in your experiments,
and it smooths, but
in your experiments and in your personal taste, along with all of the different meads that you did oak, what's your favorite style of oak to use?
My favorite style is I've been using the medium French oak. And actually now on my bigger batches I'm either using the barrels, which are spirit barrels usually, where I'm using the spirals, just because they're way easier to get in and out of my bigger tanks.
Okay.
But for home use, I really like these oak cubes.
Is there a reason you would use, on your larger batches, you would use spirals over just throwing an oak stave in there from a barrel?
Well, yeah, they're long. On the commercial end, you've got these long spirals that come netted, and you just open them up and you can throw them in. And they're very easy to pull out of my tank. Whereas
Okay.
I haven't actually tried. I mean, there's some other sticks and whatever that you can put in. They're just convenience for me. I really like those. So I can just poke them in through the airlock and don't have to open my tank or put them on a string and pull them back out when my mead is where I like it.
Do you do anything to the staves or cubes before you put them in? Do you like sanitize them or anything, or just dump them in straight from the container?
I believe I dumped them in straight from the container. I didn't do anything with them. They come, ready to go. So
Yeah, I don't sanitize my
I was
corks either.
gonna think about reusing them because you probably could get a second use out of them. Then I would probably do a light acid sanitizer on them. But I don't know how. I mean, if you boil them, you're going to end up losing a lot of your flavors, right, just by doing the math. So.
Yeah, I learned that one the hard way.
Yeah, I reckon boiling would be the worst thing you could, unless you wanted to then use that water
Put the
extract.
boiling water in.
Yeah, add that to taste.
Yeah, what I'd think would be a quick dip in the sulfite sanitizer, since a little bit of sulfites isn't going to hurt too many.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I've played with oaking. I oaked a cherry mel. I've oaked a couple of traditionals, and they've turned out okay. But I've not done enough of it that I wanted to do a lot more of it because I was kind of getting, well, like Hamish said, it's kind of falling back on what I know, and not playing with it as much as I should. But the spirals have got me interested. I remember seeing those and thinking, well, that's interesting, because I never really felt like the cubes were doing that much for me. But then I was also boiling them. This was many years ago. And they said, pretty much boil everything.
Well,
Yeah.
and now I really would say when you're playing with this, try just a few cubes in a small container and taste it side by side for your bigger batch.
Yeah.
And see if you like it better,
Yeah, always have a control just so you've got something to compare it with.
Yep. Yeah, and it didn't do that the first couple of times either. It was like, there we just throw them in the pail,
I think that's how we all started out. It's like, okay,
pretty
let's try
much,
this.
yeah.
This is the recipe I have.
Yeah, exactly. I went away from it. I never really did go back. Now that all the chatter about it going on, it's got me thinking about it again in the light of my recipe list. So, I'm thinking, what can I oak and what shouldn't I oak?
Just because you can doesn't mean you
doesn't mean you should. Yeah. So, which leads to another question: is there anything that you feel, Susan, that people should just stop oaking it? I just don't.
No, I haven't found anything that I've disliked that's been oaked. But I haven't, there aren't a lot of people doing a lot of oaking, so it's hard to say. I said that one I did way back was way over oaked, so you're definitely, I would not over oak. I would hold back on the oak and be a little more cautious than over oaking, because you can always put more oak in, you can't take it out. So like I said, I would be cautious on and err on the lighter side than the heavier side.
Okay.
Yeah, I still use chips because that's what's easiest for me to get my hands on. And what I find works best for me is cut the amount in half and double the time.
Yeah, and you
Because
can do that too.
yeah, then you don't run as much of a risk of over of chateau plywood. It gives you a lot more time to figure out whether if you're the type of person who likes to set and forget, walk away for a month, and then oh yeah, I should taste that. Yeah, definitely go easy on whatever you're doing.
Well, and
Do
there
not
you
know
can
what you're
also
talking
keep,
about. Mm-mm.
Oh yeah, I'm
you
sure.
can also keep in mind you can dilute it back with another mead. If you over oak and you think, oh, that's way too much, then you can always make another of the same and dilute it back. Um, there is always that option, but it's probably easier to just not overdo to begin with.
Don't be a bad example like me.
Yeah, somebody's got to be the bad example, right?
Let me make the mistakes. That way you don't have to.
Yes, but the
You know,
Chateau
I
plywood
highly
reversed
would.
itself. Well, sorry, Susan, what was that?
Whatever oak you're going to use, though, I would highly recommend doing small amount and doing your aging, so that you understand what flavors are going to come out of that oak over time in the style of mead you want to make with it. Because, well, and even if you just take a traditional mead of your base local meads, you're going to get different flavors throughout. And those oaks are going to, that whatever oak you have is going to give those flavors, if you did a mellow or a metheglin. So start out by just tasting all the different, over time of what your oak is going to give you, so that you understand when you put it into a metheglin what flavors it's going to contribute to that type of thing. I wouldn't just think, well, it might give you me this, so I'm going to throw this in here. You may or may not like it in the end. But if you know that I'm going to make this really heavy fruit mead, and I want it to be more like, say, get some of those complexities out of the oak that come with that are going to blend nicely with, say, a black currant. A little bit of vanilla and a little bit of smoky and wood and brown sugar and vanilla that are all going to be complementing. You definitely want to play with that a little. You want to understand what those flavors are going to be there, rather than just hoping for the best.
Mm.
In the long run, a mead takes quite a bit of effort and money, even on a small batch. It isn't cheap. So, I said, I would really suggest learning what the wood and oak flavors you have by doing it in a traditional and leaving it over time, just small amounts, and tasting it and writing down notes and saying, oh, I like this at this point, I don't like it at this. But and you might love it like me. I loved it at 3 days, didn't like it quite as much at 15, but I thought it brought out a whole different complexity at 60 days. So totally different.
So what you're suggesting for someone who's trying to figure out what they want out of an oak, depending on their batch, is to take small amounts of the batch and age it at 4 different times, and then pull it out so that you can compare each one with the others.
Yep, I would do that, and I would start out just doing that in a traditional, rather than just a traditional wildflower or clover, whatever the least expensive honey you can buy that's quality honey still. Get something local and just try it as a traditional, and see how you like it. Because you're going to be able to tell all the flavors that are going to come from that oak, whether it's French oak or Hungarian oak or or American oak, or some of these other woods that you can buy now. try them and see what the flavors are and learn what those are. That's what it's really a fun experiment. I would highly suggest it. You'll be surprised.
Yeah, it sounds like a really good experiment to do with like brew club or something, so everybody gets a chance to taste it all.
Yeah, and definitely. If you have a group you get together with, or a brew club, or I would definitely have them all, contribute a little of the little. One person's going to have to actually run the experiment, because that's going to be harder for a group. But if everybody chips in, a little helps save on the cost, and
Or
then
if
all get and taste it, would be cool.
Or if you were to each do, everybody gets a toast, a specific oak and a toast level, and you're all starting out with the same honey. Go home, make the batch.
Yeah,
with the same honey.
That would be good too.
That would work out for a division of labor. And then everybody come back together, having made a similar traditional out of the same honey, and then you can taste all the different. Hopefully, you'll be able to taste the difference between the different kinds of oak and the different timings.
Yeah. Oh, you can definitely taste the differences. Having done a few of these now.
I like the idea of getting whatever brew club you're in involved. Everybody contributes a little bit, and you make this batch, and then you do the oak experiments, and then everybody gets to find out how oak reacts with XYZ honey for X amount of time,
Yep.
that kind of thing. Have you varied are the yeasts being varied as well, or basically just going with your established recipes and test driving them with the oak?
Established recipe that I use for my traditional mead here at Prairie Rose. So yeah, it's just been the same yeast, the same honey across the board for all of my little experiments.
It makes it easier.
Yep. But it's always, I don't know, maybe it's the scientist in me. I like to play with these little things and do all these little experiments.
I think all of us have a little bit of that in us.
Yeah, we have to do this. But yeah, no, I think it's a great approach. I mean, it takes a lot of the oh shit, what if I over oak my mead fear? Well, it takes all of it out really. If you're just doing it with that small amount, then you go into it with that foreknowledge. Because I see is a lot of conversation out there about how much oak in what kind of mead, and it's and as you said earlier, it depends, basically. What kind of honey are you using? What kind of yeast are you using? Is your honey the same as my honey, or is it a different wildflower honey from a different place, or is it spring or fall? Or there's 80 gazillion different variables, so the only way to really properly oak your mead is to test drive your mead with oak and find out, and then make notes.
Actually, an additional thing on the experiment would be to leave, either double the amount or leave it and then dilute it and see if leaving twice as much oak in place and then diluting it ends up tasting different from one where you used half as much with twice the volume.
Yeah, that would be a good experiment. Cool. Something else to try.
Like we don't have enough experiments to do.
Well, you see, my brew list is full. I'm adding to other people's now. Sorry.
You're dangerous. Seriously dangerous.
Oh, me?
Yeah, that's pretty. So you got what? Just you got your traditional in barrels now, in the bourbon barrels?
Yep.
When are they coming out?
I did smaller bourbon barrels, a bourbon, single malt, and a gin barrel, smaller, that have been out for a little bit. And that was an apple cider that I aged in those. So that was fun. And now I just have my traditional, it might be the basswood. traditional basswood. Some of them have traditional, and some of them have traditional clover, and some have traditional basswood, bourbon barrels. They should be coming out soon too.
Well, I'll have to get me some of those. I liked everything else I got at your place when I blew so much money there last year.
Yeah, you need to come through again.
Yeah, I'd like to. I really would, especially like in the middle of the summer when it's frickin' hot here. Get up there where it's not quite so ridiculously hot.
Yeah, it's way cheaper to come up here than it is to go to Australia. So.
Well, and if we come up that way, then I can swing down and visit Tom, because we didn't last time and I got in trouble. So.
Yeah, that's a nice trip down through the Black Hills there, too.
Yeah, that's what he said. It was real pretty down there, and can go check out the Black Hills and Rushmore and all the other fun stuff. So, but I just like to come see my friends. That's my main thing. I done, I hadn't done last year. I didn't do any sightseeing at all, really. I went and visited friends all the way around the country. That was basically what I did. And people were like, "Did you see the Grand Canyon?" I'm like, "No, but I went to Superstition Meadery and saw the gang there."
That's how I base my vacations too.
Yeah.
Like, what room did you go to? What meadery did I go to?
Yeah.
Oh, hell, you went all the way to Australia and you didn't see Ez Rock.
Yeah. Yeah. But I saw we had meads from 7 different places?
Yeah, we found 10 different places that were selling or making mead. So.
Yeah. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Susan, you're gonna love it at the MeadCon in March. I brought back just a buttload of different kinds of Australian honeys. Like I've got between Amish and I, we got 18, maybe 20 different varietals.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
to that.
Yeah, and then brought back. Let me see, 24, and then one was a gift, and to our wine, 21 bottles of Australian mead. And
wow.
all of it's coming with me to the MeadCon, and I'm just going to set up a get-together. And
So, yeah, I'm going to just stick next to you the entire MeadCon.
You realize that case and 3/4 of mead and that honey will last, 3, maybe 4 hours tops once we start opening it. Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna either do something in my room, or I'm gonna grab a spot in that lounge area downstairs, and I'm just gonna let people know. I'll see about putting myself on the schedule and say I'm letting people know that from blah to blah, this is what I'll have. If you want to come check it out, here it is. That's what I got it for, was so I could bring and let people who haven't tried the Aussie stuff try the Aussie stuff.
Maybe do the honey one day and the mead the other.
Yeah, that could be too. I gotta look at the schedule, so that's.
Well, do you have some of those honeys that were actually the mead?
Yes.
It would be cool.
Yeah, I do. I've got to talk to the people I got mead from and find out what honey varietal they were using, so I can make sure to match it up properly, because I'm not familiar enough with the Aussie varietals to recognize the honey when I taste it.
She doesn't have the specific honey, but she has enough varieties that I'm sure she has something very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So we went to this place, Beechworth Honey, that package up all of their varietal honeys, which was like 25 of them or something, into like little sauce sachets. So it's sort of like honey straws, except that they're a big sachet in a
like
pot.
in ketchup packets, but bigger.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, sauce, ketchup. Yeah, of course.
It's just a short step up to bagging your milk.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we got to Beechworth Honey, half an hour before they closed. And
Yeah.
it's like out in the middle of nowhere, halfway between Steve Kirby's place and Hamish's house. So it's like a half hour, because they roll up the streets at 5:00 in the smaller town. So it's like 4:30, and we get there and we're like, well, crap. All right, we'll just go check it out and just leave when they kick us out. And we get there, and this is a tactic we used all the way across Australia. I brought a case of American mead with me, so Hamish and I are dishing this out to people everywhere we went. And it was great. It was so much fun. So every place we go to try meads or honeys or whatever, we'd try all their stuff and decide what we were going to purchase, and then ask them if they were interested in American mead. Would they like to try some? And they invariably said yes. So all of a sudden, secret things would come out and stuff you weren't allowed to taste. You suddenly got allowed to taste it. Oh, hey, we have a little bit of this stuff we've been out of for the last year and a half, but you can have some.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, these girls, they were great. The girls at Beechworth, I need to give big shout out to the girls at Beechworth because they were closing at 5 o'clock, and I think they kicked us out at 6.
Yeah.
After going through all of their stuff. So,
yeah. We tried.
Yeah, it was a really great experience.
3 meads and 4 sodas made with honey.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who makes the meads for them? Hamish, do you remember? Is it their in-house?
No, they're the winemaker from the Yarra Valley makes their mead for them.
Okay. So this was wasn't a meadery. It was a honey place, and the place that makes the mead.
They're a honey producer.
It's a winery that makes mead. So yeah.
Cool.
But it was really and well, Hamish had said that originally the meads were not great. And
yeah, they weren't. They tasted a lot like Strongbow, like someone was trying to make apple cider, and they were just kind of bland and boring.
But this time it wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't going to win, and we flat told them. I mean, we were pretty straight up, and we said, well, we told them about the Mazer Cup, and we said, well, look, these are pretty good. Now they wouldn't medal at the big mead competition in Colorado, but then a lot of really good meads don't because the competition is so steep. But these were pretty darn good.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean they weren't particularly complex or but they were easy drinkers. They were pleasant. They were nice meads. They were nice meads.
Well, good.
Yeah. But the honey, oh my God, so many varieties and so different from our stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I've been trying to say for years. That's what's been killing me. Before I came to the US was the big difference between Australia and all the advice that you had on Got Mead, where people would say this honey and that honey, and I'm like, yeah, but what is, put that in
no
my terms. What does it
points,
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have reference points for half of it either.
Yeah. I know the ones I know, but there's varietals I've never tried. Quite a few of them in the States. There's so many.
Well, I hadn't tried Orange Blossom until we were doing this podcast when Manny sent me some.
Yeah.
And then, of course, immediately fell in love with the stuff.
But yeah,
yeah.
Susan, it was really wild because even, like we've got basic wildflower, which is very similar all over the country. The flowers differ, and so the mixture of flavors differ somewhat, but people can identify that this is wildflower, because of that. But the whole, there wasn't any vegetation that was familiar there, like at all. I mean, it was wild. I mean, it wasn't, okay, I did see like a couple of flowers that were somewhat familiar, but I mean, it was just so very different.
Well, yeah. And I would expect that because I've gotten like desert wildflower, and I've gotten
desert wildflower.
Spring wildflower is so different from fall wildflower, is so different from East Coast and West Coast wildflower. And down near Florida, the wildflower is totally different again. Yeah, when I first started out, I used to order wildflower honey from as many places as I could possibly get it. And yeah, every one of them is totally different. So I would guess that, this is a whole nother continent. So
yeah.
We're gonna be.
But even the clover, which Vicky knows well, we had clover honey. She says this is nothing like clover.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, it's like if you get clover honey in North Carolina and you get clover honey in Oregon, it's identifiably clover honey. It does have some variances, but it's identifiably clover honey. And he's right. I mean, I was like, if you hadn't told me this was clover honey, I wouldn't have known. I wouldn't have had a clue.
I mean, it's like orange blossom honey from Florida is so totally different than orange blossom honey from California.
Right, but they're both identifiable as orange blossom honey, even
They're,
though the
they're
flavor profile is
identifiable.
very different. You still could say, "Oh, that's orange blossom," you know.
Yeah.
They're definitely different just because of the surrounding flora.
Mhm.
Uh, whereas, I've noticed clover honey is different from North Carolina, is different from North Dakota, is different from Colorado. I think those are probably the only 3 places I've really had clover honey. Minnesota and North Dakota are pretty close. But
Yeah, I would think so.
it really depends on what other flora is around, and also the variety of clover. And I'm thinking the varietal of oranges. Whatever oranges are from Florida versus California. So it is funny. I mean, you're never going to find, but what you need to do is taste that honey and say, what is going to be good out of this honey? You add different fruits, how is it going to pair? So that's always fun I always taste my honey first before I ever decide what I'm making out of it. And then it's like, okay, what'll pair well with that?
David Webb is going. Hamish had asked if anybody had any questions about oaking or any commentary on the concept of varietals, and so David Webb comes back with Tupelo, which is David's favorite honey. But I have to kind of agree with him there. I like Tupelo; it's really good.
Tupelo is very, very good. Again, that's one where I would take a very small amount of it and test how you like the oaking. You can use 1 or 2 little tiny cubes in a small batch and try it out for what you have and see if you like it. Tupelo is a darn good traditional mead just in itself.
It is, yeah.
But
same with somebody mentioned something about oaking meadow foam early in the conversation on Slack, and that was the same thing. It's like, would you, should you? And I'm curious myself. I love meadow foam, and I hate to do anything to it, but at the same time, I'm curious what oak would do.
Right, and I've seen some recipes, or they're suggesting making s'mores using meadow foam. A s'more mead, and I could see getting some smokiness from the oaking, from a little bit more aging of oaking.
Yeah, that would give you the more toasted flavor in the marshmallows.
Yep. So it really, on any of these, it has to become a concept in your brain, and then you have to look at how can I get there. So.
All right. So, is there a wood that you might wood a mead with that is not oak at all?
Pardon me? What are you?
Is there a wood that you would use that's not oak? There's been some talk in the past of different woods.
Some other, and I haven't used them. But yeah, there are some other woods out there now that really sound like they might be fun to try also. And again, I would try them in the same manner. Because there's there's just lots of different woods that you could try. Cherry wood, toasted cherry wood, or I've seen other woods, and I would definitely play with all of them. Yeah. Again, I would do it in a small pieces and small amount of my mead, and see how I liked them.
Yeah, one of the ones that crossed my mind, and even though it's not something I would personally try because I'm not crazy about the flavor combos, but I've had it, is birch. All right, they have birch beer, and it's a popular drink in a lot of regions in the States. And I don't know, do they drink birch beer in Canada, AJ?
The idea doesn't surprise me, but I've never had any. I've never seen it.
Okay. Well, I
I
had it.
mean,
I
the place is
honestly,
lousy with birch trees, so there's no reason why we shouldn't.
right, yeah. I actually had it of all places in Scotland, even though where I grew up in northern Michigan, birch are everywhere. But I had it in Scotland because there was a meadery. Well, it was Moniac Meadery, which is now,
Oh,
yeah, which is not anymore, and it's still there, but it's owned by somebody else, and it's not the same anymore. But at
yeah, I
the
know.
time, they had a birch. It wasn't a beer precisely. It was more like if you made, like ginger ale, but with birch, and it was really interesting, and it got me to thinking, what if you aged like a traditional mead on birch? Well, what would you get? I'm curious. So, for those of you listening out there, if you've thought about exotic woods, there's one to think about, especially if you like the idea of birch beer, which is an interesting flavor. I'm just not one that I personally am terrible fond of, but it's very interesting. If I liked it, I'd like it. If that makes any sense.
I want to try maple to see what kind of character you get because I did a traditional where I used maple leaves, and it actually came out tasting similar to an Acerglyn.
Like a folly mead.
Yeah, I've heard of doing oak leaf mead, and I'm hesitant to do the maple leaf again because certain kinds of maple leaves, when they start turning red, which is when, of course, I harvested them, it starts breaking down your blood cells, so it's not something you want to have a whole lot of. Um, it read it on Horse Magazine, sorry. But I can't imagine that the amount that was in what I made would kill somebody unless you drank like the whole barrel of it or something. But it's something I still want to be hesitant about. But I wonder if maple would give you that nice mapley flavor that you get either from the leaves or from the syrup.
Mm.
So that's something I'm going to try one of these days.
Maple leaves in mead, Hamish?
Yeah, that's what AJ was just saying. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. I wonder.
Yeah, we're distracted, obviously.
Yeah. No. I mean, yeah. I was trying to like answer 3 different things at once. I apologize. I can't type on 2 different platforms and then answer a question at the same time, or even listen very well, obviously. But what about the wood? I was thinking you were talking the leaves, and I was thinking the wood, and it makes me wonder too because the sap comes up through the wood.
Well, folly wine is not a new thing. That the French have been making folly wine with grapevine leaves for a very long time.
I wonder what character
folly,
grapevine leaves give you.
Yeah, folly with a double LIE or a double LI, not with a Y. Even though when I first heard of it, I thought it would be folly to try putting leaves in mead. But
well, I found a recipe for oak leaf mead, and I actually made something similar to that with oak leaves, and then I made something using maple leaves, and I haven't actually bottled the oak leaf one yet.
Okay. It'd definitely be an easier thing to get than the wood. So if you wanted to do like a maple wood treatment for oak, you'd have to go get the wood and make sure it was dry and appropriate and all of that sort of stuff. The leaves you can just pick from the tree and throw in your fermenter, so it's not.
Well, I picked them up off the ground and washed them, but
at home, yeah.
Yeah. But like when I did that, it did actually taste. It didn't taste exactly like my Acer Glens, but it did. There was definitely a hint of maple to it.
Okay.
Interesting.
That's kind of cool.
That is kind of
so
cool.
Yeah.
That makes sense, I guess, because maple syrup is the sap, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm.
And there are places that use birch sap instead of maple sap for making their syrup as well. So
yeah, that's what the birch mead that I had, or the birch beer mead thing that I had, was with sap. I'm pretty sure, but I've always kind of wondered what the wood would do because again, the sap goes up through the wood. So.
Yeah, I've also wondered. Like I've heard of people making meads with maple water, like just the straight sap when it hasn't been condensed at all, and not really finding it had much of a taste, and like just drinking the stuff plain is apparently kind of gross.
Ow. Smack myself in the head set. Sorry about that. I reached up to move it and overcompensated. um, yeah, I mean, it's just I've seen a lot of talk about the more exotic woods, i.e., anything not oak, and there's been some, yeah, cherry's one that I saw come up quite a bit too.
Yeah. Because the cherry wood does actually have a cherryish smell to it. Or at least near the bark it does.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, people use it to get that flavor when they smoke meat, so it stands to reason that you could extract some of that flavor, which, leads you to another interesting conclusion.
Applewood!
Yeah, or what if you oaked on mesquite?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you know. Or Hamish, what if you guys tried something like paperbark or I don't know, one of the other strange looking trees that I saw when I was over there.
Look, I'm a big fan of red gum honey. So I was thinking what would the red gum wood, which is a very good strong wood for burning, quite dense, be like. So that was my first thought, was can I double down on the red gum there and do something different. So I'll consider that. I'm not sure I'd go paperbark per se. It's a little bit soft and sappy, I would expect for this kind of thing, but maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if it's a sappy tree, like a birch or a maple, then that might be a whole different approach.
It may be a whole different approach. It may be a whole different disgusting approach to it.
Well, it could be, yeah, but you don't know. Like Susan said, you don't know till you try it.
Mm.
Oh, I was kind of doing an internet search here just to find, and there's what is it? The Mead House has a page in March of 2017. They did toasting wood at home. And they have toast talk about different types of toast, but then they're cherry, hickory, hard maple, soft maple, oak. They have a couple of different kinds of oak, white ash. I've had I think somewhere I had toasted ash tree mead, where they use the ash as the instead of oak, they used a toasted ash. So that would be kind of good. Talk about yellow birch, and they talk about the flavors. So possibly go there and look up some of those. Might add to this. It's a lot of information here, so I don't want to read it all, but gives the different flavors that would come from toasting different woods. Like
You know what,
cherry,
Vicky? I'd be
dried cherry, earthy, additional sweetness in the finish, like vanilla, fried bread, interesting, phenols muted, alcohol persistence, slight tannic astringency. So, I mean, they give kind of the flavors that might come from different woods. So, something to try if you want to go further on this, rather than just oaking different woods.
Cool.
Yeah, and the same approach is going to work as to just try it and see what happens. That's the thing. Just like Susan was saying, you aren't going to know how it's going to work out in a mead until you give it a shot, in a small amount and see what you get.
I reckon maybe try some of those myrtles, Vicky. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think those would probably work. I mean, they'd make good cubes or whatever, spirals or what have you. But I love the flavor, on those on the leaves and all that, where everything was so lemony. I just gotta wonder how much the wood picks that up.
Well, that's one of the things. I mean, because it's in the leaf, not in the flower, it's more likely to be in the sap, I would think. So, and there was the anise myrtle and the lemon myrtle. I know you don't like anise, but there's quite a few different varieties of them around.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, and they were. I mean, you could. He had me smelling the leaves, and we were, checking out various types of foliage and whatnot. And
we almost got arrested.
Yeah, we did.
Oh,
what are you doing? Says the cop. We're like, checking out the
For
plant
molesting the
life.
trees?
Yeah. Oh my god, it was hilarious. That's what happens when there's nobody around, because the cops are bored. But yeah, I mean, it's just that I'm just really curious to see, what kind of stuff happens. That we should organize like a experiment group. Get a whole bunch of the got meters together and everybody pick a wood.
Ooh,
Hmm.
there's a strawberry myrtle in Chile.
Ooh,
Oh,
now we're getting into the really interesting stuff. So yeah, Susan, we were gonna kind of dig a little into the different meads we got to check out when I was in Australia. And you're welcome to stick around and join the conversation. Up to you. I know you're coming off of work, so I didn't want to assume.
Oh no, I'll probably hang around and listen.
Awesome, awesome. So, yeah. Oh, so okay. You got those of you who are on my feed or hang out on Got Me know that I was in Australia for the last 2 weeks. Hamish was kind enough to invite me over and then basically chauffeur me all over the southern half of the country, and um, and we visited a bunch of meaderies and mead makers to try different stuff. So, was it the first one we had was at Joel's, yeah?
The first one we had technically was at Milnier Restaurant.
It was at Milner Restaurant. That was the coolest restaurant ever. For those of you that are into the Viking thing, this place rocked, man. It was so cool. I mean, you didn't know it was there. We walked up and down the block, what, 3 times, going, the fuck is this place? We couldn't find it. And then suddenly we noticed that there was a hammer of Thor on a door on like this little unassuming quiet little
oh,
dark door, and like, well, that must be the place,
And then there was a
Look
stairway
for the
down to
shingle.
hell, kind of.
Yeah, and then the stairway down to hell, and it's all dark and everything. And this place serves Steve Kirby, who is Stone Dog Meadery in shoot, what's the name of the town, Hamish?
I don't even remember where he is now. Yarra, Goulburn, somewhere up near the
Galburn.
border.
That's it. Yeah, he lives. Yeah, the meadery's going to be in Galburn. After he
Oh,
moved.
okay, yep, cool.
Yeah, I remember. So anyway, so they work with Steve, and they've got 2 locations. There's one in Sydney and one in Melbourne. Yeah.
Yes, yes, that is true. I haven't been to the Melbourne one yet,
Yeah,
which
you gotta go check it out.
I'm gonna have to remedy very
Yeah,
soon.
you have to fix that. Yeah, you better take Vanessa with you. I think she'd like it.
Yeah.
But it was so cool, you guys. We went down there and it was like going into a Viking longhouse. I mean, there was like wood.
Awesome.
It was so cool. Wood everywhere, shields. All the shield maidens were all all dressed the part. We're not talking
Yeah.
FDA proper. We're talking like bodices and tight pants and but they look good and they were obviously comfortable.
They
and
did.
Yeah, they did. They looked great, and they got to exercise individuality in how they dressed. So it was fun to see what they all chose, and
Nice.
they all knew the menu and the products really well, and they were making mixed drinks with Steve's meads. So
Cool.
Yeah.
yeah, and they're all fun names. I had one called a shrubbery. I cracked up the whole time I was
Nice.
drinking it. It actually had a bit of shrubbery sticking out the top, and they lit it on fire when they handed it to me. It was great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they had other things like Freya's Fixes and Fruits of Yggdrasil,
Yeah.
and yeah, all those other good
It
ones.
was really cool. You kept expecting Beowulf to come out of the bathroom. It was it's like so awesome. And the menu was geared towards traditional Viking food. So they had
Meat.
much
Yeah.
meat. Yeah, lots of meat. But it was the roasted bone marrow that everybody like totally went nuts
Oh.
for.
Oh
they,
yes, that
they
was
took
good.
these giant beef bones and they sliced them lengthwise and then roasted them with the marrow in it on like in a pizza oven or something. I don't know, but it was it
Wow.
was so good. And then served it with bits of bread, toasted bread, to spread it upon. And oh my God, everybody sort of dived on this. And there was roasted vegetables. There was like a half a chicken, 3 or 4 whole fish heads included. There was, oh, what was the beef thing? Or was that a pork? No, it was a beef thing, wasn't it? It was
Uh,
like a roast of some kind. It was really good. All of it was really
Roast
good.
beast.
Yeah. It was, but it was all,
there was the ribs, the biggest ribs I've
yes.
ever seen.
Yeah. And
Brontosaurus ribs.
pretty much. And
Yeah,
they about
yeah.
fell
Nice.
apart. I mean, they were so tender.
Mm.
And so we basically, and they had this, the menu is not really wide. They have like a limited number of things, but they're all like curated for the time that they're trying
Right.
to evoke and everything. And but they had this one thing that was designed for groups, and it's basically, it was like the giant dinner, the feast. And
Cool.
so and there was what, 6 or 7 of us. So we opted for said feast, and I mean, literally the table was groaning with plates. It was fantastic. I mean, we couldn't eat all the food, and there was very hungry people there.
Awesome.
And when they came, and after they took our order, they came around and they took this roll of leather and they roll it out across the table and said, "Choose your knife."
Yeah.
And there's all these different knives with all cool different handles and everything.
Oh wow.
Yes. So we all chose our knives. But it was,
Yeah, there was a lot of theatrics to go with it.
There was, and
it was a very interesting.
and they were well done.
Fun
Mm.
theatrics.
Yeah, the theatrics were extremely, they weren't overdone. It felt like they were doing it because this is the way things were done. You know, like we do
Sort of
this
like You Living History.
Exactly. They were very comfortable in the role, and it was that which made it so much cooler, you know. But I
Nice.
mean, all the food was fantastic. The drinks were stunning with Steve's Mead, and we had a grand time.
Yeah.
So much fun. We should have
Yeah, it
gone
was.
to the
That
one
was.
we should have gone to the one when I was in Melbourne at your place.
Well, there is that, but I wanted to take you by the Ethiopian place as
Oh,
well,
yeah.
and get some tej, but we just didn't have
Didn't-
time.
yeah,
We
oh,
wanted
God.
to do too much and too
we,
little.
we were both running from like 7 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night every day, all day. You know, I mean, just going full out, full blast. And yeah, when I got home, I pretty much just fell over. But yeah, so we had Steve's Mead, and that was my very first night. I arrived that morning, and then the next day we went to Wollongong, which is where Joel Robinson is, and his meadery is Hunter and the Harp, and
That's right.
which is named after his kids.
Yep.
So now he doesn't know what he's going to do.
Who
He's got a
were
third
Hunter
kid.
and Harper.
Kick.
And
Yeah.
now, then he had an
Hunter
extra
and
kid,
Harper,
he
and now
doesn't know
they've
what
got
to
a
do.
third kid, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to make that work, because the meadery name is wrong now.
Mm.
But
It was Banjo was his third kid, and he was thinking of having Banjo's braggots as a line instead.
That makes more sense.
yeah,
Hunter and the Harp with Banjo's braggots. I think it runs nicely.
yeah. And he's doing his meadery is in his basement, which is cool that he's able to do that. And he's doing beer style meads.
Yeah, very, very beer style. All session, lots of sour. He likes his saison. What else was he playing with?
Let me see. He had the saison. He had the sour. Did he have a gruit? I don't think he did.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which ones because the labels fell off all the bottles in the box.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to guess when I open them which one it was. He had the one that was what kind of lime was it?
Finger lime.
Finger lime.
That's a native Australian fruit, which is it's a lime and it's shaped like a finger and it's weird and practically inedible, but it's good for flavoring things.
It made for an interesting mead. They said finger lime, and so of course my brain went to, the lime profile I'm familiar with, or profiles I'm familiar with regular limes and key limes and whatnot. And so it wasn't what I was expecting, but I liked it.
Yeah.
It was
It's
it
like
was
one of
different and
those-
interesting.
It's kind of like a kefir. It's one of those things that isn't it never really domesticated. It was never designed for eating. It's just someone decided it tasted good, so they used it as a flavoring agent. It hasn't been engineered yet.
Yeah, no engineering has occurred. But
No.
his meads were all really interesting. And for those of you that may not know, Steve has had, or Steve, Joel has had some issues with being able to smell and taste properly because he had a head injury. So he and his wife are working together as a team, and she's an award-winning mead maker in Australia. She's won awards with her home meads in competition there.
Hmm.
And so they're working together to make this work and getting good meads. So he's really just doing this amazing thing.
And his taste is slowly coming back online, which is really good to hear.
Yes, that's fabulous.
Hmm.
And then they
So,
brought a fabulous dinner
yeah.
and or what it was a
Oh,
lunch,
yes.
late lunch, and with mead, of course,
Yeah, paired with mead.
paired with mead. Yeah, and it was wonderful. It really was. We had a great time. And then what? We went from there to Steve's.
Yeah, we went up the top of the mountain to visit Steve in the Erie.
Kind of felt
And
like Outback to me, but yeah.
yeah, it was close-ish to the outback, but it was definitely up in the Erie. It was right at the top of the mountain, and the wind was blowing fierce, and we started in on some of his mead there, which was pretty wonderful.
And 180
We drank all of
degrees
his
away
braggot that night.
and 180 degrees away from Joel's stuff, which was really
Yeah.
great because his has got a totally different style. His stuff he likes big, bold, you know.
Mm, mm. So yeah, we had a lot of good stuff of that night, and they cooked us an emu egg in the morning for breakfast.
That was so fun. They made me break a hole in it and I screwed it up. Stop whacking the
You just
thing.
got over enthusiastic.
I did. Well, I mean, it just didn't want to crack, and it's not, I don't know. Uh, and for those of you who may be curious, emu egg is richer. It's more yellow, but it's richer and more yolky than chicken egg. So it's got kind of this richer tone to it. It's still identifiably an egg, but it's
But really pale at the same time.
yeah, but it's really flavorful. It's just got more flavor, and I don't know if that's because it's bigger or because it's emu or what. But it was a really good thing. That was our first of two eggs that we got to have.
Yeah.
So yeah, we
I got another one in the fridge now.
Yeah. Your mom's getting rid of them, huh?
Yeah, it's laying season. What can I say?
Yeah, right. So what? From Steve's, we went to Beechworth.
We
No,
no.
we went to Winds Creek.
Winds Creek, yeah,
Yeah,
which
the
is
meadery, yeah, the
amazing.
invisible meadery that we had no idea was there. Not a clue.
They've been around for 10 years, and Vicky had never heard of them.
I
and neither
never
had
heard of
I.
them, yeah. I was stunned. But they were kind
So
enough.
they're only open Thursday through Sunday, and we went on Wednesday, and I rang them up on Sunday on my way up at Steve's recommendation. So if you're listening, thanks, Steve. And said, would you open specially to have us? And the proprietor there said, yeah, sure. Who's Vicky?
Oh boy.
He had no idea what Got Mead was or who I was
So-
or anything. Which is, not surprising, I guess.
Which is wonderful, because
Yeah.
even after him going, who is this person? He said, yeah, we'll open specially. And then they put on a special private lunch for us and a private
Oh,
tasting
wow.
of all their meads. And, all sort, like, for someone, they'd never, you had no idea who you even
Yeah.
were. And that was the kind of hospitality that was really quite wonderful. And I was very impressed with the guys at Winds Creek, and a big thanks to those guys as well.
Yeah.
They had a nice spread of about 5 or 6
meads
mates,
and a
didn't they have,
cider,
Vicky?
wasn't it?
4 and a cider, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And they were all
So-
good. This
Yeah.
guy was a beekeeper from California who had moved to, he's in Goulburn, wasn't he?
Don't know.
I'll
Don't
have to
remember.
look it up. It's somewhere near Goulburn. So he was an American that had moved to Australia and had been there for quite some time.
Oh, where he is now, Canberra. Sorry,
Yeah, Canberra, that's right. Yeah, it was outside Canberra.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Murray Bateman.
Yeah, there you go. And he was a beekeeper, so he was keeping the bees that they made the mead from. Plus they were selling their honeys and making beeswax candles And I've got a jar of
Mm.
one of their honeys that's been infused with cinnamon. It's still got the sticks in it.
Mm.
Yes, I can't
And
wait to make that.
much to Vicky's delight, the meadery was actually in an 1860s cottage
Yeah.
with
Oh, it's
2 foot thick walls and whatnot. It's like
Cool.
as old as you can possibly get in our country. And so yeah, she was absolutely wrapped with that
I
whole
was
thing
I
too.
was
So
transfixed. Yes, it was a gorgeous little cottage, and they'd built this cute little tasting room with a lovely handmade bar,
Mm.
and a display for their meads and everything in one of the rooms. So it was really cool, and they had murals on the walls from a local artist that were portraying
mm,
life in the time when the cottage was built.
That's really neat.
It was really neat.
yeah,
I love how you get so many slices of history with your mead.
Yeah, and that was some of the cool things about it was that you got to see that sort of glimpsed into the past. It was pretty awesome. And they were just the nicest people. They put on lunch. They brought out pizza and I mean it was it was just great. They had this cute little arbor outside. They had like a almost like a beer garden, and it was surrounded
yeah.
by vines and little pergolas and and a grassy sward, and it was just gorgeous and so nice.
Mm, yeah, it was lovely. It
It really
was lovely,
was.
and they wouldn't let us pay for lunch.
No, they wouldn't. So we
That's
spent
sweet.
lots of money
So
on mead and honey instead.
Right.
yeah. All right, if you're going to force us to buy your products,
We can do that.
Yeah, right. So yeah, and I've got that mead and the other meads I brought from Steve and Joel. Those will be coming with me to the MeadCon Mazer Cup in the spring.
yeah.
Yeah. Hamish and I had to get very creative for me to get most of it home.
I bet.
Oh yeah, I didn't. You don't even want to know what they charged me for the extra luggage. It was stupid. But
Oh, really?
oh yeah, I got nailed for 320 Australian
From just Melbourne to
from
Sydney, or
Sydney. No, Melbourne to Sydney they didn't care. But once I got to Sydney and was getting on an international flight, oh yeah, they nailed me. It was less than I would
I
have
thought
paid
you
if
had
I'd been on
7
a Delta
bags.
flight. They put me on Virgin for my replacement flight, so it was less than it would have been if it was Delta, but it still was pretty ugly. Yeah, that's what it is. No worries. Yeah.
I thought you had all entitlements for the international
I
one.
thought I did too, but apparently not. And after my flight got all
Mm.
Okay.
cocked up, I think things changed. I'm not sure.
Well, if
Um,
it makes you feel any better, I could have shipped them to you with FedEx, and it would have been the same amount.
well, about the same amount. That's what I figured. It was like whatever. I got to get them home. Whatever. But yeah. So okay, we hung out with Steve and Lavender. Steve's lovely wife, also an American. She's from New York, and she's awesome. I really liked her. um, they got an off the grid house. It's like solar, and they really need to
Cool.
put up windmills because God, they got wind up there. And
The
she was
windmill
about
will get blown over.
true, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They'd have to anchor it to the bedrock. I mean, we about got knocked off our feet. It was so windy. Um, but from there, we went to Winds Creek, and then Winds Creek to your place.
Via Beechworth, yep.
Yeah. Oh, via Beechworth. That's right. The next place was Beechworth and their mead, which we talked about earlier.
Yeah, we've talked about it already. So yeah.
Yeah. And then 3 days at your place, whereupon we drank mead, but we didn't buy any mead or honey.
No, there's no real. I mean, there's some honey, but there's no real mead in Melbourne yet.
Wait, no, your group meeting. We had the group meeting.
Yeah, we
The
did. We did, however, have the local Melbourne or Victorian Mead Makers Association, or the Victorian arm of the Australian Mead Makers Association, whatever we want to call it. And we had probably a dozen people along to there with all their meads. So we had about 30 meads spread out on the table there.
That's where about 2/3 of the rest of my American mead got. I held back like 3 bottles because I knew there was other people I wanted to share with, and we had a
Yeah,
couple of open ones. But yeah, about what 4 or 5 of my bottles got turned out at that
yeah,
event. That was
yeah. A
pretty
few of them
cool
went.
because there was all kinds of mead, and there is the guy that's fixing to open in Melbourne. He's in process.
Victoria, yes, not Melbourne.
Oh, okay.
So
I was I was under the
it's one of
impression that
those
he was
things.
in Melbourne. That's what I thought he said. Okay,
No,
so
it took him 2.5 hours on a train to even get there.
oh right, okay, yeah, that's quite a ways. I
So
didn't realize he was that far away.
yeah,
I figured he was just down in town when he said he was taking a train. Um, but yeah, so that was really fun because I got to try a lot of different meads, totally different style approaches, and of course using wildly different honeys than what I'm used to. So it was a
hmm
real experience to get to try that, and they were all of them really interesting.
yeah.
That one mead of John Talkington's was really popular, wasn't it?
It was,
Yeah.
yes, it was.
Yeah, John, if you listen to
Um,
this, I think I texted you about, or I probably Facebooked you about it, but yeah, your mead was pretty darn popular.
yeah, it went very well. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think I remember seeing it on Facebook, and he commented, so I'm sure he's already aware of that. But yeah, after that, we drove around a little bit to have a look at the kind of area in the southern rainforest, and then
Went zip lining.
the 12 apostles
Went zip
on the
lining.
Great Ocean Road.
Ziplining.
Yeah, went ziplining
Went
through the
zip lining.
forest.
It was so much fun. I'd never been zip lining
100,
before.
150 feet up inside the forest through the trees. That was
In the
pretty cool.
rain.
That does sound
Yeah, in
actually
the
really
rain.
In the
cool.
rain, yeah. It was cold, So we were all zipped up. We got like 4 layers on. Plus we're strapped up in all these things and hanging from a wire and flying through the air.
Hmm.
Sounds
It,
amazing.
it was
It
amazing.
was.
It was so amazing. If we had been able to carry anything, I'd have been like trying to snap pictures, but it was, you're busy hanging on, so
Well, yeah, one would hope.
yeah, you really want to let go and go, "Hey, let me get my camera out, so
Now, this is where you get a GoPro noggin cam or
well,
something.
you actually could rent
Well,
a GoPro noggin
yeah,
camera,
they would
hunt
rent
with
you
it.
one.
Yeah. I considered it. It was like what, $50 Australian, and
Yeah.
yeah, I considered it briefly, and then thought, yeah, that's $50 I could spend on mead, so decided not
Yeah,
to. So y'all just
you
have to
know.
know that it was really awesome and exciting. We had a grand time.
And yeah, then we went down to the 12 Apostles, the limestone coast, which was all pretty cool. And we went to Mount Gambier, was next real
Yeah,
point of interest. And of all the innocuous sort of things to stop at, we went to the
we went
Mount
to
the
information center.
Umferston sinkhole.
Yeah. Well, after we went to the information center, met the lovely
Well, that's
people
true.
there who were all keen on mead, and
Yeah.
we're so excited that we were part of the mead world. Um,
Yay,
it was really fun. Um,
Yay, people who've heard of Mead.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they wanted to get Mead, so they're like, she's giving her card to Hamish so that he can get up with her to find out how she can get Mead into Mount Gambier.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And she said we have to go see the Umferson sinkhole, which we went. It's a sink. It just
it's a
said sinkhole,
sinkhole.
really. A
What's the
sink.
sea? Yeah,
How cool could a sinkhole be?
yeah. It was
So
pretty. It
we
was
went
pretty
back
damn
to the
cool.
sinkhole, and yeah, it's this sinkhole that would be probably 100 feet across, or more,
Victorian
Vicky, or
era.
yeah. And the whole thing was littered with Victorian gardens and hanging ivy over the edges, and it was all very pretty. But the
Oh,
most
wow.
amazing thing I found when we were down the bottom was that we saw these weird things on the cliff that I couldn't work out what they
They they
were.
they look
There was
like
things
shelf
in
tree.
caves and
Yeah, they look like the tree
yeah,
lichen, like the shelf tree
and
lichen.
fungus and yeah, all that sort of stuff. And
Yeah,
turned
wicked.
out this entire cliff was littered with beehives.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You know those
Yeah,
you
it
know those
was so very
pictures
cool.
You know those pictures they show of the guys that are collecting honey from the cliff hives in
In Tibet,
Argentina
yeah.
or Tibet or wherever it is? Yeah, the
Huh.
hallucinogenic honey. But these looked like that, and there was
Hmm.
bees everywhere. I mean, because there was this whole garden in this sinkhole, so millions of flowers, and so there was just bees all over the place.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was very cool.
It was very cool. Yeah, we are never going to say it's just a sinkhole ever again.
Vicky's going to be stopping at every sinkhole she hears about from now on.
God, yeah, I rather doubt I'll find many that look like that. And if y'all followed my adventures on my Facebook feed, I put pictures of the sinkhole and the beehives up on my feed. So
Yeah.
yeah, there should be some pictures of that up there. But then from Mount Gambier, we had to go to Adelaide to drop off Bruce, and then
Yeah.
and
Then
then
we
we
went
took
to
the ferry to Kangaroo Island. Yay!
yeah, which is a beautiful preserved part of Australia where there really isn't much interference. Despite being well settled, it's because it's an island. It's very well insulated from the mainland and from the touch of settlers. So we saw some really cool things there, didn't we, Vicky?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Animal wise, we saw like bloody animals everywhere. Places covered up with wallabies, which are basically miniature kangaroos, and they're fuzzier.
They're so cute.
And they're fatter and they're so adorable. Yeah. They also
And
are
these
not
are the
afraid of you.
super small wallabies too. So
Yeah.
this
These are like the
particular
size of
variety of
what, like
wallabies
golden
doesn't come up to your
retrievers.
knee.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, they were like the size of a golden retriever. They were not very big.
I'm
And
not
they
even that
and they
big.
raccoon
surrounded.
rats.
Yeah, and we stayed for 3 nights at this campsite on the western edge of the island.
Hmm.
And they had there was a sheep farm like behind us, so you heard the sheep going "Meow" all night long. But there was a herd of wallabies that just sort of hung out in the area, and it was hilarious because we get up in the morning and then you'd have to pretty much like shove the wallabies out of the way so you go to the bathroom. And they just didn't. They would just like hop a couple steps to the side and look at you like I was eating.
Vicky's sitting there listening to all the sheep, and then she says, "What is that a pig?"
It sounded like a pig. It did. It was grunting just like a pig. Yeah, apparently that is the noise made by the koala.
Okay.
They sound like a pig, but it's up in a tree. You know,
Yeah.
so you're like hearing
Tree
a
pig.
pig 30 feet off the ground. You know, it's like they have flying pigs in Australia. Why doesn't this surprise me?
But only the boys, and only when they're randy.
Yeah, which they apparently were.
So
They make really
Yeah.
terrible noises, as I recall.
Yeah, it was way outsized of a noise for such a small thing. Yeah. So it was really cool. And for those of you wondering, I saw no spiders. I only saw one snake, and he was fleeing across the road, and I didn't get anywhere near him. I just got a picture of him. So, you know, and I saw no crocodiles of either the fresh or the saltwater kind. What other things that would immediately kill me did I miss? Didn't go in the water, so no great whites.
Drop bears.
Well, the drop bears stayed up in
you
the
just
trees
about
grunting.
cuddled some emus.
I just about cuddled a couple of emus, yeah. Did cuddle a kangaroo, a Joey.
How about the
Yeah.
platypus? Did you get to see the platypus?
I got to see the platypus at
Yay!
a wildlife preserve or a wildlife sanctuary because it's really, I guess it's like super rare to see them in the wild. But we learned
I've
that-
never done it.
Yeah, we've learned that there is, if you go to Australia and you want to see these things, you have to do it the proper way. You have to say, you'll never see a insert cool Australian animal you want to see here, and then say it multiple times, kind of like the dance we do before the show. So it's like,
Right.
Vicky, you'll never see a koala close up. Well, there's one on the road. Oh my God, it's
Gronk.
like 5 feet from us. Yeah.
Right.
Vicky, okay, you'll
Yeah,
never
we'll,
see
we'll,
an
we'll
echidna.
find some in a tree, but you'll never see them close up.
Yeah, you know, Vicky, you'll never see an echidna. They're shy creatures. They never come out, and they're only at night. And so we're driving down the road, and there's one on the side of the road 10 feet away. And so we get out, and Hamish basically confounds it so that it stops and gets mad and buries its head so that it's protecting itself so I could get pictures. So we annoyed an echidna to get pictures. And, yeah, so it was, so all the way, what was the one thing? Oh, wombat. I never saw a wombat, and we kept saying the mantra, and the wombats did not cooperate. So,
Yeah.
Naughty wombats.
naughty wombats, yeah.
You saw enough dead ones.
I saw plenty of
Nice.
dead ones, yeah. But yeah, so when we wandered the island somewhat, and one of the places we ended up was the oh shoot, what's the name of the honey farm, Hamish? I just suddenly drew a blank. Clifford Honey Farm.
Clifford.
Yeah, it was like right there. Clifford Honey Farm, which is kind of, It's on the eastern end of the island. Like in what 30 minutes from the edge. This place is bigger than it looks, and
Yeah.
yeah, or the roads are slower than it looks. One of the two. But anyway, so we went to Clifford Honey Farm, which is they have this. It's a sanctuary, so they've got strict quarantine. So these bees are completely separate and have not mixed at all with the mainland bees. Though they do get shipped to the mainland because people prize them. Um,
Yeah.
but they don't
They're
come the
they're
other way.
pure Ligurian, is it?
Yeah, Ligurian or Ligurian. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is, but yeah, they're like their own thing. So those of you that are into exotic bees, Ligurian bees from Kangaroo Island in South Australia, South Australia, right?
It's the last genetically pure population of the Ligurian honeybee lives on an island about as far from Italy as a bee or a person could physically get. That's what the Wikipedia says.
Yeah. But so they had a pretty big honey operation, and they have a mead made with their varietals that they get from their bees. They don't make it on site; they have it made off site, and currently it's made by Sue Ann at Thistle Honey, which is near Adelaide. So, and that's the city closest to Kangaroo Island, back on the main part of Australia.
Hmm.
But they were nice meads. They were really nice meads.
Yeah, they were. They were.
Yeah, I really liked it. So of course more honey was purchased and tasted. More mead was purchased and tasted. And it was the honeys or the meads there were light. They were bright and sunshiny.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And there were a couple of other places we went to on the island that one of them had mead, another one had a honey liqueur.
Mm-hmm.
As
Oh,
as you
and then there was
remember
the
the
gin
gin,
joint.
remember the gin
The
joint
gin joint, yeah.
Oh
of
dear.
all the gin joints in all the world.
We went to the one on Kangaroo Island. Yeah, it's a gin distillery on Kangaroo Island, and so we went and tasted. They had 1, 2, 3, 4 kinds of gin and 2 liqueurs.
Mm.
Yeah, 3
Yeah,
if you count
yeah.
the one they said they didn't have. That they
And
were
and
out
he
of
he
right
would have
now.
bought that bottle of date night off us if we had a spare one.
Oh, I know he would have.
He was wrapped with that. He wanted to duplicate that in his gin.
Yeah, we were sharing. At that point in time, we had an open bottle of Braggot, Australian Braggot. Was that Steve's or Joel's?
No, that was Joel's
Joel's.
Bochet.
Joel's Bochette, that's right. So yeah, we had Joel's Bochette, and we had a bottle of Date Night from Superstition Meadery in Arizona, and
Hmm.
so we've been just and we just been like having people taste these everywhere we went, and we did this to the people at the honey place, and at the gin place after we tried everything, we're like, oh, and they're like, well, what do you do? And we told them, and they're like, oh, mead, yeah, I like mead, and we're like, would you like to try some?
Mhm.
So we scampered out to the car and got the mead and came back in, and they had just told us that their walnut liqueur, which
The walnut liqueur. Yeah.
yeah, which was the flavor notes on it sounded amazing, and they're like, oh, we're so sorry, we're out of that right now. So after we have the mead tasting and this guy waxes rhapsodic over Date Night, he was absolutely in love with it.
Yeah.
He's like, we have a little bit of the walnut left. Do you want to try it?
There's literally like an inch in the bottom of
Yeah,
the bottle. That's
yeah.
all he had.
Jeez.
Yeah. And so we got to try that.
Yeah.
I came away with they had a honey walnut liqueur that I got a bottle of to bring home, and I'll bring
Yeah,
that.
that was pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I'm gonna bring that with me too. I won't crack it until I get to next spring. But it was really interesting because again, using the local honey, there were really all this stuff is coming from the local area. The herbs that went into the gin were all foraged locally. And this was just this tiny little place, and their house was like on the other side of the driveway, and then they had a little tasting barn that they built. So it was way cool seeing the local use of everything was just really neat. And then what was the other one was the honey farm or the honey house, honey house.
Yeah, there was another apiary there that had their mead. Unfortunately, all the Kangaroo Island mead makers or mead places get their mead made on the mainland, I think it'd be lovely if someone started up making their own mead on the island. But
Yeah.
these meads and liqueurs at this place were made by Maxwell
By
Meads,
Maxwell
which is
Meads,
one of
yeah.
the biggest and oldest mead making wineries in the country. They're kind of like the
Chaucers.
Chaucers
Yeah.
of America, in that they've been around forever. They made some sickly sweet stuff that no one really appreciated that much, but recently, their meads have much like Chaucer's. They've come really quite good. A lot more comparable to the standard that we already have come to expect,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I was quite impressed with that. And they made this mead for the apiary down in Kangaroo Island,
Hmm.
and I think Vicky even bought a couple of bottles of that.
Yeah, well, I got a couple bottles of the liqueur because my BFF um, Bree is super fond of that kind of thing, and I wanted a bottle to take with me to, to the Mazer Cup Mead Con, and uh, and then because I knew we were also going to be going to Maxwell, so I figured I could get some of their stuff there. And for those of you that are gnashing your teeth or like looking at us and going, they have no idea what they're talking about. I know there was a point at which a lot of people were bagging on Maxwell's, so but if you haven't had it recently, it looks like they reformulated sometime fairly recently, and it was completely different mead than the first time I tried it. Um, Now the spiced one hasn't changed a lot, but their traditional was pretty darn good. I liked it, and well, I got a bottle of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the other thing to note is just how much this winery that has four meads was pushing their mead.
Oh yeah.
They had free
Hard.
tastings. Every table was set up with a mead sheet on it when you walked in. There was nothing about wine unless you asked for it, basically.
Hmm. And they had what, four wines and a port that a tawny port that was actually very good. Got a bottle of that too. But yeah, they had they're making a session mead that is apparently playing really well in their tasting room. People are coming in and a whole gang of people will come in and they'll all get this session mead and they'll just sit around and drink three or four of them. So like drinking beers. And
Well, I remember when we were there, there was this group of guys on a booze cruise,
yeah,
doing a trip around all the wineries, and I saw Vicky's face when this guy walked up and he said, "Oh, can we get like 3 bottles of that just to have out on the table?" And we went, "Wow, people are ordering mead like that in Australia. That's pretty
yeah.
amazing."
It was pretty awesome to see that, because they were just coming in and it was like so casual and like, and these were not, over here you see that a lot, but you see that with people who are really into mead. These were people who, a month or two earlier had no idea what mead was. And they discovered this and they're like, yeah, man, I want this.
Yeah.
It was really great to see. So it was pretty cool. But yeah, we had a cheese plate that they had there that was really amazing with this jam. Oh my God, the jelly. Oh, stuff is so good. And again, we brought in our stuff. After we tasted all their things and made our purchases and whatnot, we asked him if he wanted to try some meads from other places, and he said yes. And we brought it in, and we sat and tasted with them for a bit, and he really liked it, and we had commentary, and then of course they started bringing out stuff.
But Vicky loved this Shiraz jelly so much
Oh my God, it
that
was so good.
we went to ask if we could buy some. He's like, "Oh no, that's just in the restaurant. We don't sell it." And the look on her face of such sheer disappointment right after we'd given him a couple of tastes of our mead. He looks at her, he goes, "Hang on, this beer's in the back room." Finds an empty jar, fills it up with Shiraz jelly,
Brings it
gives
out and
it
hands
to her.
it to me. Yeah, it was wonderful. Because I literally came in from after because we got a couple of the session meads and took our cheese plate and sat out on the patio and had a good nosh. And then we came back in and he gave us another bottle of the session mead. And I said, this Shiraz jelly is to die for. Please tell me you sell jars of this because I want to take one back with me. And he was just so bummed that they didn't. I think they probably will now.
Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah, I would. Shoot. I mean, that stuff's amazing.
Mm.
So I have this little very dark colored jar about the size of like a little makeup jar that rode in my makeup bag back because I had no idea, what customs was going to do. If I said, and I have this jar of jelly that I have no idea what all's in it, but it's really, really good. And it was never sealed. It just got stuck in this jar and the top put on it. So yeah. But yeah, that was just everything paired really well. They chose well with the cheeses and the crackers and the jelly. It all paired really nicely with the session meat. They did it really well. So that was
Yeah, it was a ginger session, wasn't it?
yeah, I believe it was.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and it was light and bubbly, an easy drinker. It was friendly, it had nice flavor. You could taste the honey, but it wasn't, everything was nicely balanced. It had just enough acid to bring it around. So they did a good job. And they had put, and I love this, they had put packs of it, in whatever 4 or 6 packs or however they were packaging it, were stacked up in the middle of the tasting room in like a pyramid.
Yeah, yeah. That was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. So, for those of you in Australia going, wow, that's really cool. Where is it they sell those? Maxwell's in like every store, yeah?
Maxwell's is in Dan Murphy's.
And
So
Dan Murphy's, yeah.
I haven't seen that particular bottle in Dan Murphy yet, but I haven't been looking because I've been traveling with you. So
Yeah, right?
and it
We
did
didn't go
seem
to a
rather
Dan Murphy.
new.
You never took me to
Yeah.
a Dan Murphy. We went to other grocery stores, but not one of those. Um,
No,
and
it's alcohol only, so
yeah,
I didn't see the point.
and actually, I think that and then after Maxwell, because we were just kind of killing time and checking them out, and then late that afternoon, we went up to Sue Ann's place, Thistle Meadery, up on the other side of
Yeah.
Adelaide.
Yeah, and we've talked about Thistle a few times before, and she had, especially for Vicky, it would almost seem, a cherry ripe mead.
She did.
It
It
was
was so
dark
good.
chocolate and cherries,
And
Oh.
coconut.
and for copyright reasons, she can't call it a cherry ripe mead, so you won't find it like that if you're going to look for it. She calls it cherry delights. So yeah, if anybody wants to have the cherry ripe mead, that is pretty damn awesome. It would go really well after dinner with ice cream or just by itself. Yeah, that was quite spectacular, along with the other 15,
Oh
20
God.
different varieties
got-
she has in
yeah.
her range.
She's got a large. She was out of a lot of stuff when we were there though, because they'd just come back from a festival. So
Mm.
yeah, remember there was a lot of empty holes on the shelf, and they
Yeah,
have just.
but she's pretty small batch too.
She is, yeah. And they're in the process of opening up a bigger. They were doing everything right in their home, and then now they've got a big pole barn that they've got out back, and they're framing out whole sections of it for processing, fermenting, labeling, bottling, and so forth. And were they gonna have a tasting room? Yeah, they were. Because they're gonna have a
Yeah,
tasting
that was
room.
the idea.
Yeah, Dennis, her husband, is also going to build like some decks, with like maybe pergolas where you could sit outside with a cheese plate and a bottle of mead, and so it was pretty cool.
They're just a bit grumpy because they bought prime land, a large bit of land. They put a house on it. They're getting their tasting room ready, and the street they're on was the main road. And then the council's decided that they're not going to put the bridge in. It's now going to be a dead end street. It's no longer going to be the main road. So they're a bit dirty about that. So anybody over in Adelaide who can influence such things, let's see if we can't get that road put through.
Yeah. And in the meantime, we talked to Dennis and Sue Ann about making the place a destination. And then Dennis plunked us in the car and drove us all over the property so we could see all the views and everything. It was pretty cool. But we stayed overnight at their place and set the camper in their driveway and stayed overnight and hung out with them. And that she had a pepper mead. Her capsicum mead was very interesting, although a little too hot for me.
No, she has a chili mead, which is I'm actually on to drinking that now.
Oh, are you? Okay.
That's quite
that was
smooth
the open one,
and
yeah.
quite and quite delicate. It's actually a little bit hotter now because it's been I don't know whether it's because it's been left open so much or it's just my perception today is a bit hotter. But the mead that you're talking about that we had that night is not for sale. It hasn't been released.
That's right.
And it was a bit of an experiment that
Yeah.
Dennis and his mate did.
Tried to burn my
And,
face off. He did.
Yeah, it's not as hot as Steve's Ghost Pepper. It's not as hot as was it Mike Falls one
Ghost
that you
Mike
were
Falls
talking
with
about?
Ghost Pepper. That was in his
Yeah.
poetry.
So-
Yeah, that was wow.
And Steve basically copied him by putting a whole chili, whether he copied or not, but he did the same process. Put a whole chili in each bottle, so it wasn't near as hot as that, but it was fiery hot. I could tolerate it, but it was hot. Most people would struggle with that, I imagine, unless you're pepperhead.
Yeah. Yeah, but we got him back though because we brought in the mead from Oregon that was a chili lime, and forgot to tell him it was chili.
Oh dear.
He doesn't like
We were going
chili
on and
much,
on
but it was
about the desert
savoury.
wildflower honey and how amazing it was and blah 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 blah. And he takes a drink and he goes shit and he spits it out.
He just about choked on it. So cool.
I didn't mean to hurt him. But yeah, I mean, it was once he stopped to think about it, he liked mead. It's just that we completely caught him by surprise.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that was the last. Was that the last meeting?
Yeah, it was. Then we went to Hall's Gap and had
Saw the
another
castle.
wild animal infusion down there, and then we came home.
Yeah, Hall's Gap was great. 2 days in Hall's Gap, and this is in the mountains.
Yeah.
Beautiful up there. We drove a road up to it that was absolutely terrifying, especially because Hamish had me driving at the time. Which meant he was on the cliffside. Yeah, and they don't use railings, so you got like 300-400 feet straight down to the ground, no edge, no railings. And
Yeah, she's driving on the line.
Yeah. So, poor Hamish, I think he aged 5 years in the 26 kilometers.
I've never been so terrified of a car before.
But, so it was beautiful there. And we woke up to gangs of entire mobs of kangaroos, which is apparently what a group of kangaroos is called, in case you wanted to know.
Yeah.
But we woke up to mobs of kangaroos and the resident 3 emus that wandered the camp every morning. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, and we met and shared mead with a guy from France and his girlfriend who was from Japan. The French guy had Brittany mead, but it was always farmhouse mead, a totally different approach to making it, a lot of more yeasty, beery sort of approach for the ones that he had. And then she'd never had mead at all. So, of course, we whipped out our sample meads.
Yeah. As you do.
Yeah, as you do. And he had the box of sherry, was it?
No, that was a port.
Was it a port? It wasn't it was just a straight port.
He had a goon bag of tawny.
He had a goon bag, yeah. I'd never seen port in a bag before. That was kind of cool. I've seen plenty of wines in bags, but I'd never seen a port in a bag yet, so that was kind of neat. But yeah, we kept them up far too late, but they were over just hanging out in Hall's Gap for a few days, on a vacation they worked in the agriculture world down in New Zealand, or no, in Tasmania.
Yeah, they're fruit pickers.
Yeah, they were fruit pickers in Tasmania on the worker visa, and apparently there's a cutoff of the age, and they wanted to do it before they were too old, which is 32 or something.
Yeah, you have to stop at 31. Canada's nicer, apparently. AJ, you can do that till you're 35. Oh, is AJ gone?
No, she's just sleeping. But yeah,
Sorry.
So it was really cool. So we tried the meads with them and talked to them about where they came from and what they were and why they were called that, and we tried them out on Superstition's date night. Which, for those of you that haven't had it, date night is it was dates and candied sugar and
Coffee,
yeah, and it's a super dark, super big mead. I mean. It's an amazing mead. You wouldn't want to sit and drink an entire glass of it because it was so rich, but
Mm.
Yeah.
it was great as a dessert mead and really well put
Much more
together.
like a liqueur.
Yeah, it was.
Everything about it, feels like a liqueur to me. It's very, very powerful, very flavorful.
Yeah. But he really liked that. He'd never had anything even remotely like that and was just over the moon about it. Um, and he liked the Bochet too. He thought that was pretty
Yeah.
cool. So I
Cool.
don't think we tried him out on the chili mead.
No, I don't think we did.
No. So, but that was
Yeah,
that was the mead tour part of the trip.
and that is why you guys have missed out on the show for the last 2 weeks. So sorry about that, but we were having fun.
Oh yeah, we were. It was great. Yeah, if you haven't, I just
And
have to
AJ,
say,
next time you got to come.
yeah, you did. Um, yeah, 15 hours on a plane. Ouch. But yeah, it was so worth it. It really was. I mean, everything was so different and so interesting, and the people were great, and the food was awesome, and I'm in love with meat pies now. Yeah, and we just got to do and see a lot of neat things and meet a lot of interesting people and drink a lot of interesting meads. So it was all in all.
We never did give you a 4 and 20 meat pie.
No, you didn't.
It's like the Budweiser of meat pies.
Okay.
The working man's pie kind of
Ah.
thing. It's not great, but it would have been an experience.
Yeah. Well, we did try a few Aussie foods. So.
Mhm.
Oh, and then the one last place, the one last alcohol joint we hit is when we were driving back from, what was the town that had the castle near it, where we had the lovely lunch in the hotel?
Ballarat.
Ballarat, yeah. So we're driving back to Hamish's house from Ballarat, which is about a 3.5 hour drive ish, and we decide we need caffeine, and so of course it makes perfect sense that we pull into a winery to get a cuppa.
Oh, that was
That was, of course,
was
it made
just
perfect
outside
sense
Hall's
at the
Gap.
time. We thought it was great. 2 hour drive, he says. Okay. So yeah, so we stop at this place, just gonna get some coffee and a cup of chai. Yeah, it didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
We ended up tasting
yeah.
all their wines. Well, no, about half their wines, because we didn't want to. Yeah, we had
All the wines that were on offer, we
Yeah.
tried.
Oh man, I got an amazing sparkling Shiraz that's to die for. It's so good. I got to save that until my daughter has her baby in December so that she can have some. And then got they had a flat, it was a flat port. It wasn't a tawny, it was a flat port. And it was really nice too. And then you got, what was the one they had that you got?
There was a port and a
They just changed the name on it.
yeah.
Shoot, I can't think of the
Another one.
style. It's escaping me.
It's that lighter coloured port, but it's not a port. It's a
It has a different name that we're completely blanking on here.
yeah.
So yeah, I
Yep.
pretty much filled the last 2 holes of my box with the stuff I had been collecting along the whole trip as I emptied them out, passing out the American mead. And then got back to Hamish's house, realized that I still had like another 12 bottles sitting at his house of stuff we'd left behind because there's no need to tote it all over the country. And so Hamish had to give me his box. So,
And a bag.
And a bag, yeah, because I had all the presents I'd bought for the grandson and my daughter and son-in-law. So, and I got a couple of hoodies, and because it was cold, which was wonderful. It wasn't hot and sticky and gross. Coming back here was such a letdown with the heat and everything. But yeah, all in all, if you haven't been to Australia, I can highly recommend it, especially if you have a local guide. Hamish was an amazing host. It was so cool. So I got to have his mom's pumpkin soup, which is stunning. Oh, it was so good.
Yeah, you did like that.
I did like it very much. And then, and Devonshire tea.
Yeah. Huh?
Which was also lovely. So yeah, all the way around, fantastic trip. And I brought home lots of things to share with my friends next year. So.
And well, I think it's the end of the trip, and we're about 9 minutes
Overtime.
over, so
Yeah.
it's probably the end of the show too, I reckon,
Pretty
if
much.
I may
Yeah.
be so bold.
Yeah. No, you are completely right. Um, Susan, thank you for coming on and listening to us babble on.
Oh no, it's actually just making me very, very jealous. Uh,
this is this was a bucket list trip. So I'm hoping next year if I can save up enough money, I want to go to Poland.
oh, that'd be cool too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I've got invitations from the mead makers over there. I'd love to go, and I'm
Oh
the
yeah.
architecture's so fabulous over there. So yeah, I wanna go see.
Well, Susan and everyone else listening, my door is always open. There are a number of meaderies that I'm well connected with whose doors will probably be open as well, and we can set you up a tour easily enough. You just let us know.
Nice.
Oh, I'd love to. If I could ever get away from the meadery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to train up a minion that can like run the place for you so you can run away for a while.
I think I need to do that soon.
Yeah. That's because it was, and then see what you do is you do an R&D trip to Australia and you take a couple cases of your stuff and get with
Bring home a
Hamish
couple
to
of cases of
arrange
theirs.
everything and then, bring back a couple cases of something else and, R&D and that's a tax write-off, dude.
Yep,
Mm.
that's gotta be done.
Yeah. You're testing foreign honeys to see if you want to make a special small batch high-end mead or something, you
For
know.
sure.
Yeah.
Investigating techniques.
Yeah. You know, So yeah, it was really cool. I'm so glad I went. And yeah, I would totally endure another 20 some odd hours on a plane again, like as soon as I recover from the jet lag. Uh, going out, I had none. Coming back home, my God, it was like getting hit by a truck. All right, so upcoming things. Susan, you got any events coming up at your place?
Oh, no, not really. We're just very busy with farmers market, doing some Pride of Dakota shows this fall. Just busy all the time,
This is good.
making more.
Well, I'll be watching the for this traditional in the barrels. I want to get me some of that for my stash.
Yeah, like I said, I have apple cider. Actually, I might need to put that on to Vino Shippers still. I
Oh,
have to
okay.
go look.
Yeah, I'll
Put
go
on
look. I'll
Vino.
let you know if it's not on there because I don't think I've got any of that either.
Yeah, that's really good. You definitely taste you taste that apple cider, but you taste the bourbon and the gin and the single malt. It's like, oh,
Nice.
all right.
Yeah, that would go really good with the sizer. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get me some of that.
Yeah,
Get some of that to
it's
maybe
good.
take down for Christmas when I go down to my kids for Christmas. But
Yeah, that's what I do at Christmas too. See how much I can drink.
yeah. Well, I don't know how much of that will be going on because my daughter will have just had a baby 2 weeks earlier, so there probably won't be a lot of
Oh,
sleeping
she'll be
going
in
on.
desperate need then.
What's that?
She'll be in desperate need then.
Yeah, yeah, she will.
Yeah.
Well, that and she's got a 2-year-old, so she's got a toddler in the terrible twos, and she'll have a brand new baby. So yeah, she's gonna be a busy girl.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah. So yeah, it should be interesting. So coming up on the schedule, we've got for events with meaderies, we've got September 6th, we've got Boss Meadery, Mead to Laugh with Charlie Kogis. September 12th, Buzz Bee Meadery has OWLS Buzzed Bee Meadery program. No, this doesn't have anything to do with Harry Potter. Go check the link on the website and check it out. It's actually has to do with older people. So, but it caught me because I was like, oh, cool, owls. I know what those are. Thinking Harry Potter. September 22nd, in my neck of the woods, Starlight Meadery and Honey Girl Meadery will be having a Mead Day celebration and fall festival. And they usually do these together after Mead Day because there's a ton of stuff going on Mead Day. So this is a cool thing. Both Starlight and Honey Girl make great mead. I'm going to be there. So You should go check it out. September 23rd, Black's Fairy Meadery, another meadery I've never heard of, they're just popping up everywhere, is doing a pickle and pints night. Pickle the game, not the pickle. So if you've ever played pickle, and this is something you will probably find to be pretty hilarious after you've been drinking. Pickle after alcohol can get complicated. So
Here.
yeah,
Pickle when you're pickled.
pretty much, yeah. Coming up on the show, we have got come on, pull a page up. Next week we've got Thomas Hooby, who is the owner of Bee Seasonal, and that is the honey place that they set out their honeys at the MeadCon this year, and they have all these really interesting Brazilian honeys. So, and they've actually
those guys,
those
yeah.
guys, yeah. And they've done a couple sales through the AMMA for members, and where you could get their honey at a nice discount and that. But their honey's amazing. I fell in love with their pink peppercorn honey. And then Tom Reppus is
Yeah,
going
it's
to come
remarkable.
on. Yeah, it really was. Tom Reppus is going to come on as well. So, because Tom is a beekeeper and does a lot with, with his honeys. So it should be a really interesting honey dripping conversation. On 9/18, we've got Scott, who's the owner of Kingview Mead. And then we were going to have Tanya Haley on the 25th, but unfortunately she's got a parents' night for school that night, so we're going to be rescheduling her. So I'll let you guys know as we get closer what's coming up. But next week it's going to be Thomas Hubie with Bee Seasonal and Tom Reppus, which should be a really good show too. So, check it out.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. So that's all I got.
Yeah, I haven't got much either, so good night all.
Well, thanks for having me on. This
Thanks
was
for
fun.
coming on. Thanks for coming on, Susan. It's always fun.
You have a good evening.
You
What's
too.
left of it.
Yeah,
You
right. All right, night, Susan. And night, everybody out there in Meadland. We will see y'all next week. Take it easy. Have a good one. Drink a mead.
See you later.
All right,
Night.
bye-bye.